You've now found your way into my mind. This should be interesting. Here we go. Moving forward, I'm not gonna reference how long it's been between podcasts because it doesn't really matter. I think at this point, whenever I can find the time to produce something for you guys, I will. And I think it's one of my actual goals to actually produce more content this year. So be on the lookout for that if you enjoy this, and if you find value in this, then, do what you should do. Share it. Talk to people about it. Whatever. Reach out. Let me know your perspective on this podcast. But I want to talk to you guys today about, let's backtrack before we get to the topic. Some of you that follow my social media are aware that I do the woodworking, right? I do the working of the wood.
That's what she said. Michael.
Cut wood and create things with it, right? So some of you that follow me on social media know that I've been working for what seems like months on renovating my kitchen. And that involves kind of remaking doors and drawers and all this other stuff with materials that I just fancy to be nicer and better looking than the cookie cutter homes here in the state in which I reside in often have. So I've been working on this for months, right? I mean, the amount, what you guys that follow me on social media and would just religiously look at my updates, what you guys see are really like glimpses of the process. Those of you that know me a little better probably get a glimpse of kind of what I go through in order to get these things pulled off, right? Because I'm not classically trained in these skills, right? I have hands-on experience only, and I have 2 years of experience doing this. And we've talked about this during the creative process, so I won't go into too much detail with this. But long story short, I mean, for me, this is a tremendous amount of planning that goes into it. I find ways to kind of corner myself into these projects so that high pressure yields diamonds, right? So high pressure yields great results. But with that comes the lows of hitting errors, and more so making errors, and the issues that occur when you have put plenty of time into a project, and then all of a sudden what seems like project ending errors occur, and all of a sudden you come kind of crashing down on your high, right? So that's essentially what happened with me on this project. I got to the phase where I literally planned it, executed the build, executed the finishing, which was a huge variable in itself because I went with a spraying system versus doing a wipe on, or wipe on would be the appropriate word, approach to the finishing. All of it was a crazy variable, right? Everything, like the finishing, the ability to pull this off. I took on 1 or 2 new tools that I had never really worked with in order to pull this off, pull the look off. Some of this was definitely steps in evolution from previous projects, but some of them were completely new factors. And I got to the point where the doors are built, the hinges are on, right, which is another huge variable. But I had a little experience doing that. I'm good. I felt comfortable, right? And in the craziness of just seeing the finish line and petering out before, right? We've all been there where you've reached the end of the project and you're just already looking towards the finish line versus actually staying in the moment and completing the task until you get past that finish line. I think my mind wandered a little bit, and honestly, some of it is exhaustion, right? Tiredness of going kind of ham on this project for the last few weeks, and I lost focus for a second, and in that second, a mistake was made. And some of you that follow me on social media know of the other mistake I made. I made a mistake where I drilled hinges on the wrong side, but that was easily fixable because it was a perfectly square door, and I could literally rotate the door 180 degrees and bolt it in the exact same way. The only big variable is that at the time of recording this, I haven't told you guys this, but some of the doors, most of the doors have my logo laser etched into it. So for that door, the logo is upside down and on the top. So it's not where it should be, but that's far easier to correct than drilling a appropriate sized piece of walnut with a bit of some sort, circular bit, so that I have a circular piece of wood, and filling it perfectly in that same spot where I would have drilled the hinge holes, and then found a way to blend that in or perfectly fill that so that it's not very visible. I mean, it's incredibly difficult to do that, right? So I will take the responsibility of sanding the door, sanding the logo off, re-lasering and refinishing and whatever. We're good, right? And so I figured, I'm like, if that's the best mistake I've made, then, whatever. That's not a big deal. Once again, and sad to say, I mean, I think I lost focus again for a second. And it happens in a split second, right? When you're on autopilot and you're pulling doors off, taking them to the garage, doing one quick little sanding to get rid of any nibs that you feel when you touch the door, right? The door has to feel smooth and clean, right? And sometimes with a spraying system, I've figured, because there's so much air floating, things floating in the air, it attaches to things. So it does need one final little quick, literally 20-second sanding just to get rid of that. And in the process of doing that, removing doors, going to the garage, sanding a side, sanding the other side, feeling the panels so that everything's smooth. You sand, and then you wipe it down with some mineral spirits, make sure everything's wiped down, make sure everything's secured. Then you lay the jig to tell you where the holes should be for the handles. And then I drilled, right, 2 holes for the handles. I cleaned it all up. I put the screws through the back of the handles, installed the handles, and then walked my way up to the kitchen, right? And by the way, I am 1, 2, 3, 4. This is my 5th door, right? I'm not new to this. This is a new little game I'm playing. I'm experienced. I've done this a million times. I've even done this in garage projects and done this and this and that. I mean, I'm not new to this per se, but I lost focus for a second. And the moment I went to put those hinges back in, I realized that I drilled the handle for the door on the top part of the door, and it should have been on the bottom. And that was bad. Like that in itself really annoyed me, because me pulling off these doors was already a tremendous feat. I mean, I didn't have any doubt in my mind doing it because, once again, high pressure, and I put a tremendous amount of time into planning, and also it's very similar to what I've done in the past, right? But there was risks involved, and risks are really in the form of money spent on materials and also on time spent, and I find those two things to be rather valuable. So when all that comes and hits you in that moment, it really is almost soul crushing for a second, right? You think to yourself, like, God, this sucks. Like, this is a tremendously just complete, excuse the language, but a complete fuck up. I mean, it is soul crushing, right? Soul crushing. And it happens. It's going to happen. And I think the first thing that comes to my mind when things like this happen are, how did I fuck this up? And I quickly came to realize I took my eye off of the prize, right? I slowed down my pace in that race because I was already seeing the finish line and I wasn't following through, focusing till the last minute so you can finally sit down and relax and enjoy the progress, enjoy the process, and enjoy the finish, right? I lost focus for a second, and that's a problem. That's something that I definitely reassessed. I took in the moment to reassess what I did, and I reassessed, and I completed the rest of the doors with not having that issue happen one more time whatsoever, right? That's the first thing I would suggest to those of you that are applying this logic into your lifestyle is the first thing is assessing your own, and honestly assessing your own mistake. There's no room here for ego. That you would go in, you figure out what the logical situation occurred, where the mistake was made, and you execute the better plan every single time after that. That's my first suggestion. But it's hard to do that when your mood is crushed and you are actually upset about the situation. And for me, shout out to Bill Burr. For me, that's when you're putting so many eggs in this basket, when you're putting so much pressure on yourself to complete these things, it was definitely. I want to say I don't want to use the word soul crushing because that seems exaggerated, but for a guy like me, I guess it is what it is, right? Because I don't tend to lose focus like that and make those kind of mistakes often. So, like every human, I suggest going through your emotions. I'm sure my neighbors heard some choice words uttered throughout that time frame, right? I'm sure, because I think I had my screen door open or closed, but the regular door was open. So the neighbor's kids might have learned some new language. My apologies. But I think at that point, you go through your emotions, you go through the motion, and then you have to not let those take you over. You can't let yourself spiral, and you can't let yourself be down on yourself and hard on yourself. You move on. The error, the mistake has been made. You now take the time to learn, once again, reassess what you did wrong and how to avoid doing that again, and you move forward and you own that fucking mistake. Damn, I'm dropping language today. So that's number one in my mind. But I think the greater lesson and the real thing I want to teach you guys, and I hate saying that because that sounds douchey. I digress. The better thing that I want to maybe give you something to think about is how you respond to challenge, how you respond to difficult situations. And that's the greatest lesson you can figure out for yourself, because then you start learning about yourself on a deeper level. And once I got my little fit out of the way, and once I got my emotions out, my mind was far more focused on, all right, we will not do this on the next set of doors. This will not be a mistake that we do and carry on forward. And afterwards, we will fix this door. One could easily say, let's just go remake the door. Well, a lot of time and energy goes into that. And quite frankly, materials, and I'd have to do quite a bit more to mill and produce the lumber in order to create this door, right? And this is still a perfectly functioning door. It just has 2 holes. And then, there's always options. The beauty in woodworking is that you have to almost think of wood like a clay, right? There's a lot of things you can do with clay. You can mold it in many different ways. It's not as static as like a piece of paper. You can fix the paper, but man, putting it back together is quite difficult. Wood is a little bit more pliable towards those things. So I knew it wasn't something where I need to scrap the door altogether. But while we can talk about what I've done to fix it, which is still a work in progress from the moment I'm recording this, I think that the greater topic and the greater discussion I want to have with you all, and the greater topic I want to bring to the foresight or the forefront, is thinking through how you respond to challenges. Because at times, and there will be times, where you need to look at these situations, and after you get your emotional woes out of the way, you need to own up and own it, and you need to take it, and you need to look at it and say, okay, this is where we're at. Let's go. We got to go from here. We move forward. We don't take steps back. We take steps forward. And how do we fix this thing? How do we go from here? I'm going to make this seamless and flawless so that I have to pull this door off to show somebody where I messed this up. And that's my mindset going into this. And I'll do it, because if I'm anything in this life, I'm pig-headed, and I will get it done, right? even if I have to work on this one little project for weeks on end, because this is like, I would imagine, because I've never done it myself, I would imagine this is the equivalent of what painters feel like, right? At a certain point, you want everything to be perfect, and you keep hitting things over and over and over and over and over. And I'm not in a bad spot. I picked high character wood. The wood has high character, lots of knots and voids and holes and waviness and curviness to the grain. So there's many ways to go about this. And I've used quite a bit of filler in order for me to kind of get these black knots nice and solid and stable. And so there's plenty of ways to skin the cat, as they say. But my point to this podcast topic, my point to this mindset is, how do you respond to challenges? And really looking at those choices and how you respond. First, I'm not telling you to disregard your emotions. I'm not telling you to disregard and put those away. No, I think it's healthy to get those out. In fact, it's probably healthier to get them out than it is to bottle them in. I'm not saying to lash at people, but I'm saying to get them out however way you need to get them out, whether it's more productively through exercise and maybe, I don't know, yelling out a cuss word or two, as I probably did, right? Not the unhealthy ways. Do it the healthy way, but get the emotions out. And then what? You can't let this situation crush you and ruin the rest of the day. Own up, man up, and or woman up, right? However you want to phrase that. And pull up your pants and let's move forward. You know where you are. You know what you're doing. You know where you are in the process. Now, what are your options? Start figuring it out. And that's kind of the thought today. I think that's my experience for today. That's my thought for the day. That's kind of what I lived through today, and I wanted to give you guys some feedback on that, because I often think that, and I'm told this a lot, like I often think that we all think the same, right? And I think I'm often told that that's not the case. So I'm giving you my perspective like anything else. For those of you that want to delve deeper into the weeds of things, into the situation as to how I approach these things, whether it's woodworking or not, right? I think the secondary topic is more about the idea of how I approach these things that are nagging big issues that I feel like are big issues. And I think for this project, I think what I ended up doing was I installed the door. I installed the door with the holes. I finished the installation on all the other doors. I did all the other drawers, and everything was done. And in that meantime, I put it in the back of my mind, I'm going to fix the door. And in the back of my mind, I just kind of would think like, okay, how do I fix this? What do I do? Do I fill it with filler? Do I create a plug and plug it and then try to kind of feather it in? I mean, there's a lot of ways of doing that, right? Like, I didn't want to do just a solid black circle because that looks really unnatural, right? So there's plenty of options. But what I would allow you to consider is put it in the back of your mind. Sleep on it. You know, these are big decision things like this. Sleep on it. Think about it. And sometimes your mind subconsciously will work on things in the back end. And it's done that for me a few times today. You know, as we speak, I had to enlarge the hole because I had a plug cutter that was in that thing. I found wood that had a similar grain pattern. I cut a plug, which is basically just a little piece of a dowel, if you will. I cut a plug out of that same kind of grain wood, and I glued it in place, and it's sitting there right now, kind of with a little bit of filler and glue, waiting to dry overnight. In the next few days, I'm gonna see how it dried, sand it. I'm gonna see how it dried. I'm gonna sand it, and then if I need to, I'll start really tackling it, right? Really kind of messing with the grain patterns, really messing with it so that there's really no visible area where you could see the difference between one piece of wood and another piece of wood. I want that to be seamless. I never want anybody to ever even see it. And it's doable. It's definitely doable with the type of figured wood I have. But my point to this is saying, if you leave this in the back of your mind, subconsciously your brain will slowly work for an answer. It will find you options, give you different things you can do. And it's giving me 2-3 things I can do to fix this. And I'll fix it. And I think you should have that attitude as well of, I will get it done, or I will achieve this, or I will get this and this out of life. But the thing is, you need to be focused, right? The one thing for sure, focused on your goal, but then also be confident. and be aware that you can achieve your goals. You just need to, put in a little bit of work. Well, that's it, ladies and gents. As you know, I always tell you, if you enjoy this stuff, let me know. Give me back some feedback. I will try to continue to do this as often as I can. A lot of times it's just when the universe instills me with a little bit of motivation like this, it's far easier to do these than it is me working my day-to-day and trying to, do projects, work, try to stay somewhat active, take care of myself, life, socials, life, all that stuff. I mean, it all adds up. So when I can and I find the motivation, I definitely try to connect and do these. So if you guys have topics you guys want me to tackle or things that you think would be valuable for this podcast or just general feedback, let me know. Maybe I'll do a podcast where I can read the feedback and really assess criticism of my podcasts. Well, podcast. You can do one for the other one too. Either way, appreciate it. Have a good one, guys. And ladies.